learning experience for these young players. You know, they get the pre-match team talk from Guardiola, and then they'll get an awful lot of lessons at half-time as well.
What about the pass from Fernandinho to Sir Jesus Navas on his way? Deflection was less than helpful though for Zinchenko.
I just wonder how some of the senior Manchester City players feel about being in this side at the moment. Navas, can't see him playing an awful lot under Guardiola once the season gets started. Fernandinho, you know, both similar players, but you know, you've got to play holding midfield players.
Lam spinning away from Fernando. Bernat doing his damnedest to keep it in. But Ribéry seemed more concerned about what's happened to the back of his shirt than getting the pass laid off to perfection.
Great pass from Philipp Lahm though, absolutely superb. He really is a football player that can play anywhere on the pitch. He's not bad either though, is he?
Been in the wars early on. Zinchenko, who's joined City from the Russian club Ufa, and he got plenty of experience in the top flight with them last season in Russia. Played over 30 league games. Barca. Angelino with the overlap, and behind it goes off Javi Martinez for a Manchester City corner.
Experience, Javi Martinez. I remember watching him play for Spain in the under-21 Euro Championships quite a while ago now. Had a team with De Gea and Juan Mata in it as well. Did incredibly well. Just probably needs a little bit more game time.
Kolarov, Fernando Fernandinho amongst the targets. It's an easy one for Alonso to get clear as far as Barca. There's Barca again. He had a brief loan spell with Rotherham last season. It's not a bad pass. Jesus Navas looking to create some space for the cross.
Navas's final ball is always the problem, isn't it? You know, that's what struggle with at times. Last season, blistering pace, absolutely dynamic as a player, getting past people, but sometimes that final ball not quite on the money.
Slowly but surely, City are getting themselves into the contest. They do have this intriguing pre-season campaign ahead of them. After Manchester United, they play another of the big German sides, Borussia Dortmund in Shenzhen, and then it's Arsenal in Gothenburg ahead of the new season as Ribéry resolves his wardrobe issues.
Just want to point out that's not a sports bra. You know, I think that's the GPS system that just looks after the little dongle, effectively on the back of the neck, just so obviously players can be traced how much they're running at what speeds and all the rest of it.
Ribéry's probably thinking, have I not done enough over the last decade or so to prove that I'm willing to get up and down a football field?
Well, technology these days is a huge part of football, whether you like it or not. You know, but you have to use those stats in the right way. You know, you can look at stats and you can make stats fit whatever model that you want. However you want to contrive to make them look, you can generally do it with stats. But ultimately, there's nothing better than watching the game. You can see whether the player is working hard or not.
He works harder than a large majority, I would suggest.
A lot of it is about not getting injured and just making sure the players aren't overloaded.
And that was a problem that Ribéry had at the start of last season. Ankle and muscle problems restricted his involvement, really. But he's into his 10th campaign with Bayern now, Franck Ribéry. This is Juan Bernat providing the support up against Pablo Maffeo. He's acquitted himself well at right back. The 18-year-old. That is the man. 14 trophies in 21 seasons as a manager and a head coach. That is the kind of calibre that Bayern turned to the minute they knew that Pep Guardiola was not going to sign a new deal with them.
Fabulous manager, exceptional player, very, very good man as well. I'm just reading his book at the moment, Quiet Leadership, you know, and the players that speak about him, all talk about him very, very highly.
Sent in towards Green, great lead by Adarabioyo. He's Ribéry. He's gone for the return, he's got a bit of space from Ribéry! Oh, what a save from Caballero! It looked a certain David Alaba goal.
Fabulous save from the goalkeeper. Didn't know an awful lot about it, but got his body in the way of it, in the right place, at the right time. Great skill from Ribéry. Plays a little 1-2 around the back of Maffeo. Not an awful lot he can do about that. I have to say, poor finish in the end. From that position, Alaba should score.
It was the kind of thing that we saw from Bayern, that incisive, vibrant attacking play that was very much installed during the last 3 years under Pep Guardiola. Carlo Ancelotti's paid respect to his predecessor in saying that, you know, there's not a great deal he needs to change. Yes, he's got one or two of his own ideas, but his predecessor has left Bayern in very good shape indeed, and I'm sure the Manchester City manager would have appreciated the quality of that Bayern attack.
Oh, he's very, very good. Ribéry, he's a world-class player, but I think anybody that is interested in management of any kind, whether it be sports or anything else, Carlo Ancelotti's thoughts on the world, on football, on sport, very, very intriguing. Very, very knowledgeable man. Not a baller, not a shouter. You know, he tends to say Mourinho almost started war at Real Madrid. He came in to calm things down.
Wouldn't quite run for Barker. The interchange between Chenko and Iheanacho very nearly released the teenage winger. Ribéry again. Fabian Benko for Rafinha. Of course, had a wonderful end to last season, Bayern, and they seem to have picked up from that in terms of the quality that they have displayed. They won 15 of their final 17 home games. They only lost here once all of last season. No team won more games in Bundesliga, no team lost fewer. Theirs was the best defence, and only Dortmund managed to outscore them.
But you expect Bayern to win the Bundesliga, don't you? You know, realistically, it's pretty much a two-horse race. So, yes, Pep did very, very well, winning the 3 domestic trophies, but he didn't deliver that Champions League, you know, and that's probably why Ancelotti's been brought in. You know, obviously got the Decima for Real Madrid in his first season. I think that's the holy grail for Bayern Munich and clubs of that ilk. Real Madrid, Manchester City, the Champions League is what they want more than anything else.
They have, of course, only been champions of Europe twice since winning it 3 times on the spin. Great Beckenbauer side, and they feel as though their name should have been on that silverware, that particular piece of silverware, a little bit more often, I think. But like City's great local rivals, Manchester United, they feel they should have won it more often when they were in their pomp under Sir Alex Ferguson, and Bayern certainly will point to 1 or 2 missed opportunities, including the fact they've lost in the last 3 semi-finals, all of them under the guidance of Pep Guardiola. Feo's throw. That's it back, the 18-year-old. Pushing Adarabioyo, who's acquitted himself well alongside Kolarov at the heart of that City defence so far. This is Angelino. That's a nifty bit of footwork. Barker against Feldhahn.
Barker just needs to be a little bit quicker, a little bit sharper in that situation. Had the opportunity maybe to get the cross in with his left foot. Should have taken it.
Just played the 4 games during that loan spell with Rotherham, and did also make 1 appearance for City last season in that 5-1 FA Cup defeat at Stamford Bridge. In fact, 1 or 2 of the young academy players involved this evening got a chance in that game, and the previous round, the 4-0 victory over Aston Villa.
Yeah, it was a poor decision, I think, to play all those youngsters in such a big game, you know, against Chelsea. would have done some of them more harm than good, for sure.
Chasing experience that came around the time that City had big Champions League and Premier League appointments as well. Occasionally a manager rolls the dice. It backfired badly on Manuel Pellegrini on that occasion, but of course others will point to the fact that City got to the semi-finals of the Champions League for the first time, and that was a notable success in their season. They were the final British club flying the flag.
But suddenly now the pressure's ramped up a little bit more, hasn't it, on Manchester City? Now that Pep Guardiola's in charge, you have to say quarter-finals is probably mandatory. Semi-finals is expected.
The 9-4 Premier League title favourites, the team that finished 4th last season. That is the Pep factor for you, isn't it? The minute his name was put on the manager's door, they became the favourites with the bookies.
Still think it's going to be very, very difficult for Guardiola as he comes in. The Premier League is different to any other league that he's been before. The intensity is very, very difficult to deal with. A lot of games, a lot of physicality. Can he play at that high tempo week in, week out? There is never a respite in the Premier League, no matter where you go. So that's going to be difficult. It might just take him a little bit of settling in, an adjustment, and of course he's going to want to bring in some more players as well.
Iheanacho. Is it back from Zinchenko? That's a lot of Jesus Navas, but he's going to win that race with space to spare. All right, decided against doing Emmanuel Neuer and coming for it. Iheanacho! Not too far away from at least testing the goalkeeper.
Decent effort, but goalkeeper never flinched, but doesn't even blink. Just turns away nonchalantly, knows that it's going over the bar, but first real chance from Manchester City. But that's what you see Pep Guardiola doing. He will be constantly on at his players. Clearly they'll have worked on things in training. He will not want them to give the ball away. 2 previous clubs, giving the ball away was a sin. You know, love the ball, keep the ball at all costs.
If you give it away, you have to work hard to get it back.
Well, the moment you give it away, if you can win it back within 5 seconds, that's pretty much how Pep works at those clubs.
Rafinha for Bayern, who had the better of the early exchanges, but Manchester City's unfamiliar looking lineup of growing in confidence, and none more so than Pablo Maffeo. He's given the ball away to Javi Martinez. Return though, one back by Iheanacho, chasing back. We mentioned the upcoming domestic season in England, and we will have the pick of the early action for you right here on BT Sport, starting with the Community Shield, Sunday the 7th of August. That's over on BT Sport 2 from 3:15 as the champions Leicester City take on Manchester United. And then the Pep Guardiola era starts in earnest for Manchester City at home to Sunderland, Saturday the 13th of August, here on BT Sport 1, also available in ultra high definition, and a new time slot for your exclusively live Premier League action here on BT Sport. We will be with you at 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon.
And who will Sunderland's manager be? You know, that could be a big question. He's changing manager for them fairly soon, if rumours are to be believed.
Allardyce to be the New England manager, and that gives Sunderland a pre-season headache. Whoever it is to be, won't be the ideal start, will it? Manchester City and Pep on the opening day of the season in front of what will be a massively expectant City at Manchester Stadium crowd.
I think what is going to be interesting is the formation that Pep Guardiola plays. I'm expecting him to play very, very similar to what he is this evening. You know, 4-2-3-1, effectively. You know, maybe 2 players, unfortunately he doesn't have Robin in his team anymore, to play high and wide. Almost 3 out-and-out front players. The 2 wide players will cut in and play, and another player in the number 10 role with 2 holders.
Carlo Ancelotti won't have Ian Robin in his team for the next few weeks either. groin injury suffered at the weekend means he will be out for at least 6 weeks and will miss the start of the season. And Douglas Costa and Holger Badstuber also looking to overcome injuries, and Jerome Boateng with that one he picked up playing for Germany at the Euros. It'll actually be interesting to see whether Bayern suffer any sort of Euros hangover. We saw that with Dortmund a couple of years ago, didn't we, after Germany won the World Cup, that they made a very sluggish start to the season with one or two of their players back in pre-season training later than they would have ideally liked.
I just think the Bundesliga is quite comfortable for Bayern. Even if they get off to a sluggish start, shouldn't be too much of an issue. They'll be there or thereabouts, and you expect them to win the title. But again, Ancelotti's been brought in for the Champions League. You know, that's what Bayern Munich want, as you alluded to earlier. They haven't won it as many times as probably they would have liked in the last few years.
Manchester City had 7 players at the Euros and a further 2 at the Centenary Copa America, but no club had more involved at the European Championships than Bayern, 11 in total, plus Arturo Vidal with Chile in South America. So 1 or 2 still finding their way back. Alaba not amongst them, lays it off for Green with the chance. And once again, Willy Caballero comes up with a fine save to keep it 0-0.
Another good save from Caballero. I have to say again though, poor finish. This really should be in the back there. Great flick from Ribéry. Really clever, intelligent play from Alaba. And Green's just stretching. In fact, Caballero does better than I thought originally. Really good save down to his left-hand side, but one-on-one with the goalkeeper in this situation, you'd expect this to be going in the back of the net.
It's a really fine, strong hand to turn it away from goal. And Julian Green, who was very much a bit part player last season, only made the one senior appearance, unable to give the home side the lead. It's a bit more comfortable for Caballero to deal with, but twice now. First Alaba and now Green. He's produced splendid stops whilst deputising for Joe Hart. Rabiot. Two Manchester lads in the team tonight for City, Toshin Rabiot, and that is, of course, part of the bigger picture plan for Manchester City's owners. Yes, they've been able to invest in the Allianz Arena in Munich. It is a night I'm sure they will remember for a long time.
Well, Manchester City's training academy, stadium, where they train, is unbelievable. It's probably the best in the world in terms of facilities and all those things. But the owners will want that to start paying its own way eventually. So all the money they've invested in the academy, they're expecting to start creating products coming out of that over the next 5 years.
Ribéry. Mayo blocking his route for now. Banat. Another chance for Green, perhaps forced away from goal by Kolarov.
Bayern just a little bit sharper at the moment, aren't they? I think that extra experience that a lot of those players have.
Well, Green a great deal more composed in front of goal on that occasion, but from an offside position.
It's always easier when you're offside and the whistle's gone and you know the flag's up. But just watch this pass from Lahm. In fact, he's not offside. The linesman gets that one wrong. But Philipp Lahm, inch-perfect pass. Great little scoop.
The officials just showing they need a bit of a pre-season warm-up as well. A bit unlucky then Bayern. Then Green, but who's to say how he'd have finished if he'd known the flag had stayed down. Here he is again, tussling away with Fernando. Decision goes in Manchester City's favour. It's a product of Bayern's youth system. Green will be hoping to impress that man who, of course, had a year out of the game after leaving Real Madrid to recuperate. Had back surgery during the that year and spent some time living in Vancouver, Carlo Ancelotti. There's been one or two changes to football rules over the last couple of months, but you've got to get the ball out of your penalty area when you take a goal kick. That has not changed.
That's still the same old rule. Clever from Javi Martinez, knew exactly what he was doing under a little bit of pressure. I've never understood why that doesn't get penalised with a foul, though. It's too easy to just step inside the box.
Warlock getting a bit more distance between his goal and the ball on this occasion. Martinez winning the header. Villano, a bit of pressure himself this time from Green, scooped away. Any of these Manchester City youngsters caught your eye yet, Danny?
Not really so far. They haven't had too much possession. They like to keep it at the back and play it around a little bit. Just like to see one or two of the younger players maybe take a little bit of a chance. Just try and maybe impress Guardiola. Not necessarily the back players, but especially some of the forward players. Get the ball, play a little pass, make a little darting run, and just try those sort of things that they would try in the in the academy matches or the under-21 games.
Fernando for Angelino, the overlapping fullback, checks his run. Barca, Fernandinho, Iheanacho, who ended last season in such scintillating form, didn't he? 5 goals in his last 4 Premier League appearances.
It's difficult for those young Man City players because they don't want to make a mistake. They don't want to give the ball away. But if you're too cautious, you can end up just playing too safe all the time. Now, at some point, this game is all about reward. And to get those rewards, you've got to take a risk.
We've got some more international friendly action coming up for you on the 7th of August. West Ham taking on Juventus, 12:30. That's over on BT Sport 2. Also available for you, though, in ultra-high definition. And then the game that concluded the last domestic season in Germany starts off the new one. It's Bayern against Dortmund again, this time in the German Super Cup. Sunday the 14th of August, right here on BT Sport 1, 7:15 start. It was Bayern prevailing on penalties in the German Cup final at the end of last season, just, 60 days ago. Alarm with the free kick. It was the 7th and final trophy that Bayern won under the stewardship of Guardiola. Here's Ribéry, another chance, and again Caballero to the rescue, and Green, the player he denies once more.
Caballero, right place, right time, yet again. Brilliant skill from Frank Ribéry. Dancing through the box. Again, Caballero, right place, right time, just hits him, but that's what the goalkeeper's there to do. It doesn't matter how, as long as you stop it.
Well, 3 saves of real note from Manchester City's backup goalkeeper so far. Green twice and Alaba denied. At the other end, Zinchenko and Iheanacho have both had sights of goal, but Sven Ulreich has yet to be asked to make a save. Bernat. Ribéry. Bernat. Ribéry again. Well, he's just trying one or two. Needing to change his out, and when they come off, they are very effective indeed.
And this is the problem. See, Bayern are now starting to dominate possession of the football. Lahm, Alonso, Alaba, they're picking the ball up at will almost.
Kolarov with the pace to get there ahead of Green, who helps him onto the turf. It will be a City free kick.
Some of the younger Manchester City players might be in a little bit of awe of some of these great players. They've just got to put that out of their minds, and they just need to get a little bit tighter. This is the save from Caballero. in the end. It's not a bad finish. He gets it on target. It's a little bit awkward for him, but Caballero, right place, right time yet again.
You mentioned it was a chance for one or two of the fringe players to make themselves known to Pep Guardiola, but perhaps a 34-year-old goalkeeper is just giving the new manager a nudge tonight.
Well, of course, and there is a lot of speculation about Joe Hart's future, whether he will still be #1 or even be at the football club. So we have to wait and see on that. And this is the problem, you know, in pre-season, there is still an awful lot of transfer business to be done between now and the end of August.
Yo-yo sending it forward, but Ulreich has had a quiet half. He only played the first 45 minutes at the weekend against Lippstadt in what was Bayern's first pre-season game of the summer. This is their first home pre-season game. The veteran Tom Stark on the bench, and we may well see him in the second half.
Another exquisite little dink from Philipp Lahm.
His decision to retire after the World Cup from international duty is very much to Bayern's advantage in the latter stages of his career. Here's Benko. Not seen too much of him, but he's picked out Alaba with the pass. And that for Ribéry again. Once he got up his sleeve this time, he's picked out a delightful ball for Rafinha, and this time Caballero gets to it before Green contested.
Be interesting for Pep Guardiola at half-time. Just needs to say to his players, I think, just to up the tempo a little bit. Of course, it's early on, it's pre-season. Young players just trying to find their feet, maybe a little bit in awe of the players that they're playing against, and being in this magnificent stadium. You know, a lot of them haven't played on anywhere near this type of stage before.
Does that make it a less than ideal way to start pre-season when so many of your senior players are still recuperating after international commitments?
You know, teams that I was involved in and played, you know, through the summer, whether it be tournaments or whether it be internationals, friendlies or competitive games. You know, Brian Kidd, who's obviously still at Manchester City, and worked under Sir Alex Ferguson and obviously an awful lot of Manchester City managers. So it's not really the early part of the season you have to worry about. It's when you get to October, November, you start to get mentally fatigued around those sort of times, physically fatigued, you know, October, November. And I think that's where Sir Alex Ferguson, you go back in the records, just used to give those players a few days off. Maybe, you know, leave them out of the team just for the one game and just say, just go and get yourself some sunshine for 4 or 5 days. You know, give them a long weekend just to try and recharge the batteries and give them that little bit of a buzz. You know, Carlo Ancelotti talks about all he needs to do with top players, you know, the best players in the world. You need to keep them in love with the game. And if you play too much football, you know, it can become a little bit monotonous at times and you can just lose that edge.
Well, he missed the start of last season. Ribéry seems to be more than ready for the start of this one, albeit not unable to hold his run. He's just anticipating a little bit earlier from the Frenchman, who acknowledges that.
Again, maybe just a little bit early from the linesman. Not quite sure that was offside, but ultimately he knows by his standards it wasn't a great pass.
Bayern have got some more prestige friendlies on the way as well. They're off to the States where they'll play AC Milan in Chicago and then Inter in Charlotte and then Real Madrid. Of course, Carlo Ancelotti's former side in New York. Watering fixtures, one and all. Himself with former employers before he gets down to the serious business of not only looking to win the Bundesliga title for a 5th time, but also conjure up a way of getting Bayern's name on the Champions League. Iheanacho, Fernandinho for Fernando. Follow off for Iheanacho again. Zinchenko, Angelino. There will be a corner. The Spaniard was on loan in New York with City's sister club this time last year. The news from Celtic Park of a significant goal. Mikael Lustig has got Celtic ahead on the night against the Gibraltar side, Lincoln Red Imps, and more significantly, all square in the tie. After that embarrassing defeat in Gibraltar in the first game, they are back level. City's corner is headed clear by Feldhahn. Green again guilty of an unnecessary shove. I just wonder whether he's a little bit frustrated, and I'm sure his manager will be as well, that opportunities that have come his way have not been taken. As he finally ended Real Madrid's long wait for La Decima, and there was no secret to why in December last year, when they knew Pep Guardiola was on the way, Bayern moved very quickly to secure the services of Carlo Ancelotti, and he's had 7 months to prepare himself for the job, so that's something of a mental head start. He's only been working directly with the players for 9 days, but he's had a long time to become familiar with their strengths and weaknesses, and they've certainly had the better of the first half, which we've got 3 minutes remaining. More good news from Celtic Park in very short order. Brendan Rodgers' side have turned things around. Lee Griffiths making it 2-0 on the night, 2-1 on aggregate, and as things stand, they will face Astana in the next round of Champions League qualifying, and what would have been a monumental crisis may well have been averted. The team includes a military police officer, a taxi driver. Don't want to be getting booted out of Europe by that side.
No, but it wouldn't have been embarrassing if they'd have gone out.
Very few stoppages we've had in the first half of this game at the Allianz Arena. The first for Manchester City since the arrival of Pep Guardiola. We knew, of course, back in February time that he was to be Manuel Pellegrini's replacement. He's had a couple of weeks to prepare his players on the training field, at times in sweltering conditions in Manchester, certainly over the last couple of days. Ribery for Alaba. Is there to be one final opportunity before the half-time whistle for Bayern? Alaba, one of those who's had a very clear sight of goal.
I think Pep Guardiola's team talk at half-time will just be to the younger players, just want to see a little bit more from you. You know, don't be afraid. Go out and express yourselves. Now, I put you in this team because I believe in you. Go and show me what you can do.
Yeah, this certainly has been the man of the first half for Manchester City. We were perhaps hoping to see Alexander Zinchenko stamp his authority on the game, or some brilliance in the other penalty area from Kelechi Iheanacho. Instead, it has been the Argentine goalkeeper who has excelled. Don't bet against these sides meeting again once the season is up and running for real, by the way. They've been drawn together in the Champions League group stages in 3 of the last 5 seasons. That's all 6 of the previous competitive games between these two teams have been in that competition in very recent history. Well, the first 45 minutes of the Pep Guardiola era for Manchester City are goalless, but they are goalless thanks to the
see there. Wilfried Bony, I think Gael Clichy's just gone out of the corner of the shot as well, so there's certainly changes.
Delph as well.
Yeah, there's certainly changes in the Manchester City department as well, so it'll be interesting to see how there's Mikel Arteta. Good sighting of him.
Do you like that appointment, by the way, Arteta?
Yeah, I don't see why not. He knows the Premier League inside out, doesn't he? He's got his requisite coaching badges, and it's great to see that Pep is utilising people who've got vast amounts of experience in the league, because I think it's very important.
Okay, I'm going to say all the very best to Danny Mills and Stephen Wyeth for this second half, because the changes have started.
Just the 43 changes.
It looks as if it could be a vast amount. Over to you, gentlemen.
Darryl, thank you, particularly for the good wishes. I don't think those will be the last of the changes we see in the second half. Hopefully one thing that'll change is that we will see a little bit more from Manchester City going forward, and that Willy Caballero won't be quite so busy in the City goal in this second half. Goalless as we get underway at the start of the second 45 minutes, but Manchester City, having introduced Wilfried Bony at half-time, will hope that they will have a little bit more cutting edge going forward. Instead, though, immediately on the back foot as Kolarov turns away from Green and clears the danger for now. Danny Mills, hopefully a bit more from City in this second half.
I think with Bony coming on, just gives Manchester City the ideal opportunity to get the ball into him, just to hold the ball up. Unfortunately, they couldn't keep hold of it for long periods to get those young players a little bit of confidence. With Bony on, he can hold it up, bring people into the game, and that just might allow them to attack and advance a little bit more.
Barabioyo has remained, the youngster at the heart of the City defence. 18 years old, he did get a bit of continental experience last season, playing 5 times for City in the UEFA Youth League, the competition, of course, that runs parallel to the Champions League for under-19 players. Here is Clichy, another player to come on at half-time for Manchester City. Bony's first touch.
It's a bit of a cliche, but these players have the opportunity to go out and impress.
Just as Bayern looked like they were about to break. Free kick in City's favour from referee Gunther Pearl. Kolarov.
And we've already heard rumours about Pep Guardiola. Some of his training sessions, wasn't particularly happy with 1 or 2 players coming back from their holidays, maybe not as quite as fit as he wanted them to be, and sent them away to train on their own, just get fitter for a week or so. This goes to show the sort of intentions that he has. He wants a very, very fit side that can sustain it throughout the whole season.
You mentioned players with a point to prove, Danny. Delph, like Bony, had a less than satisfactory first season in City colours.
Well, I think a lot of the City players have a point to prove this season. Undoubtedly a team full of talent who lived up to expectations last season. Weren't too many, if they're completely honest with themselves. And the standard now that Pep Guardiola will insist on and demand will be even higher than last season.
Fernandinho. For Angelino to take in his stride, he's controlled it splendidly. Can he get a shot away? Clichy arriving in support. Real chances for City. Steered clear by Javi Martinez, only as far as Fernando. This is Jesus Navas. Up against Banat. And it is off the Spaniard for a City corner.
A little bit better from City. Angelino maybe just hesitated, just playing a little bit safe when he got inside the area. Maybe could have gone past his man and got a shot off. But again, that's to be expected with young players.
Jesus Navas with that corner kick. Barabioyo amongst those who's the target. It's Kolarov who leaps with him. And it's Banat who sends it clear.
Not known for his set pieces, is he, Pep Guardiola? At Barcelona, basically hardly ever put a corner into the box. A little bit more so at Bayern, with a big, strong team.
training Carlo Ancelotti. As sharp as anybody. Pioyo, confident enough to be barking out instructions as he takes control. That is encouraging from one of the youngsters in this City side at the start of the second half, Delph, who of course did have Achilles and thigh injuries during his first season with City, which somewhat impacted on the regularity of his involvement. He only made 8 Premier League starts, Fabian Delph.
You never lose it, do you? Carlo Ancelotti, great little touch. Right footed, just cushioned in the ball. Might not be quite as mobile as he once was.
An old dog teaching 1 or 2 new tricks.
Well, I'm quite sure he doesn't get involved in the running side of pre-season these days. And why should he? You know, a player and a manager with his CV, been there, done it all, several times.
Clichy sharply into the tackle. Angelino. Bonney. Not quite for Manchester City as yet.
But just look at the intensity of Pep Guardiola on the touchline. You know, even in the first pre-season friendly, demanding so much of his players already.
Certainly disappointment in the early stages of this second half that we have been deprived any further involvement from Franck Ribéry, who was the standout outfield player of the first half. Some glorious touches, a player who seemingly is determined, unlike the start of last season, to get off to this season with an absolute flyer after his injuries of 12 months ago. But he's one of the players that has gone off at half-time for Bayern.
What's going to be interesting for Pep Guardiola, when he took over Barcelona, world-class players in great form. Went to Bayern, world-class players in great form as well. Comes into Manchester City, maybe 1 or 2 world-class players, some great players, very, very good players, but off the back of a season where they weren't in great form. So it's a huge project, I think, for Pep Guardiola.
3 La Liga titles with Barcelona, 3 consecutive Bundesliga titles with Bayern. If he gets anything close to that sort of level with Manchester City, what a phenomenal time he will have had in the Premier League. Clichy, Bonney, just couldn't really get the shot away, any clear side of goal, but he has won his team a second corner kicker this second half.
Well, I think if he wins 1 Premier League in 3 seasons, I think that would probably be relatively successful, because it's not going to be easy.
His expectations certainly very different. Winning the Bundesliga minimum requirement at Bayern. The Premier League, as we saw last season, altogether less predictable. Bonney helping it on. Fernandinho. And within the context of Manchester City so far, that represents a side of goal.
Yeah, it does. They haven't been a huge attacking threat, but again, a lot of young players in the side, new environment for those, playing against a very experienced side in Bayern Munich, in a fabulous arena. Some of them might just go into their shell just a little bit.
Well, nipped away by Clichy. Rafinha caught napping, and then Angelino couldn't get it back to Clichy, who'd covered so much ground to try and create the opportunity.
It's going to be a very interesting touchline, isn't it? You know, Guardiola up and down that technical area already. You're going to have Mourinho, you're going to have Klopp, Conte, of course, at Chelsea as well.
Delph for Bonney. Jesus Navas Helping it in there. Fell hard away, only as far as Angelino. That's a very difficult chance.
Difficult technique. You have to get your knee right over the ball, get your chest down low. Does well, catches it pretty well. Just a little bit too high. Look at the intensity on the touchline of Pep Guardiola. Him and Yaya Toure maybe didn't quite get on the best when he's at Barcelona. Of course, asked him to leave, allowed him to leave, however you want to look at it. We can see, even from his first pre-season friendly, the demands that Pep is going to put on this Manchester City side.
Well, Yaya Toure we're familiar with. The other player making his introduction is the Kosovan international Bersant Salina. Jesus Navas and Fernando, the players to make way.
It's interesting because, again, I'll make reference to Carlo Ancelotti and some of the words that he says in his book. He says, always be careful when you have to get rid of a player or a manager or leave a club, because you never know when you're going to come across them again, you know, as teammates. And of course that is now the situation with Pep Guardiola and Yaya Toure. That friendship, that respect might just have to be rebuilt a little bit.
Would have some success together. 1-2 league titles and the Champions League in the seasons preceding Yaya Toure's departure from the Nou Camp for the Etihad. Chance for Bayern, but it is well off the target, which is now being patrolled by a familiar name in terms of his surname in goalkeeping circles, Angus Gunn, the son of the former Norwich and Scotland goalkeeper. Brian Gunn is on at half-time for Manchester City as well.
Well, played with Brian, obviously at Norwich in my early days. I think Angus has done very, very well. He's been at the academy for some time, you know, and looks a very, very good prospect. I have to say, a little bit more svelte than his father.
It's a bit younger than him, in fairness.
Well, true, but Brian was never quite in that shape.
Here's the chance, though, for Bayern, and Gunn, his first duty is to produce a relatively straightforward save. Nothing quite as spectacular as we saw from Caballero in the first half.
Yeah, Caballero was just more often than not in the right place at the right time, and that with a little bit of poor finishing. That one a little bit awkward for Angus. Just bounces, takes a little nick on the deflection and bounces just in front of him, but gathers it well.
Angelino dispossessed by Rafinha. Yaya furthest forward for Manchester City at the moment.
Well, we know that Yaya Toure can be exceptional on his day. He can rip teams apart pretty much on his own. You know, strength, pace, power. Sometimes it's just that languid style that makes him look a little bit lazy from time to time. If Pep can get him on side, get him working, you know, flat out, he's going to be a formidable player for them once again.
Yaya going into his 7th season. Barabioyo at the heart of that City defence, hoping that this will be his first in terms of making an impact. City certainly don't have too many problems in terms of scoring goals. They were the Premier League's top goal scorers last season. If they can tighten things up defensively, they will be a force to be reckoned with once more this season. Bonnet, Clichy, had a really positive impact since his introduction, and Feldhahn, the defender, guiding it back to Allreich, who for the time being remains in the Bayern goal.
And don't forget that about Pep Guardiola. He's very, very good defensively at stopping the opposition as well. You have to remember, when you're attacking, when you have the ball, that's when you're at your most vulnerable. You've got to be defending properly, locking things in when you're on the attack. That's maybe what City didn't do quite well enough last season. Left themselves a little bit exposed at times.
Hart, another powerful leap to get the better of Bonney. Yaya Toure for Fernandinho. Bonney again up against Feldhart. And he's been dragged to the turf, and unlike one or two of the other less familiar names in this Bayern lineup, Feldhart does have plenty of experience, 29 years of age, but almost all of it has been in the lower divisions of German football. Indeed, he is yet to play a Bundesliga game. Rafinha guiding it back to Ulreich, the majority of his Bundesliga experience, of course, coming in the colours of Stuttgart, where he had a 17-year association before joining Bayern a year ago. Here comes Benko. Oh, super pass, just a little heavy for Green.
Always going to get that in pre-season. You know, players, this is their first, well, Manchester City is their first game. Bayern, some of their players are first, some their second. The radar's always going to be a little bit off. You're not going to get those perfect passes this early in the season. I think that's Pep Guardiola's voice you can hear in the background, screaming at Fabian Delph.
He's making his presence known on the touchline at a stadium where he's respected rather than loved. He never quite built the unity with the fan base here that maybe we saw with Jurgen Klopp at Dortmund, and that some of his predecessors in the Bayern dugout have managed to achieve. And obviously a factor in that, of course, is the Champions League disappointment as well. He's not considered a legend like those before him who were able to steer Bayern to Champions League glory. Merely
well, of course,
a successful domestic manager.
Jupp Heynckes won the treble and then left. It was always going to be very, very difficult to emulate that. And of course, when you're brought in to win the Champions League and you don't win it, you know, there are always going to be one or two questions asked. When Pep took over, they were champions of Europe. When he left, they hadn't won it. So, you know, that's why. But again, magnificent coach. It just goes to show how difficult the Champions League is to win.
He's had a warm and respectful welcome back, but certainly none of the paraphernalia that might have greeted an otherwise returning hero. Fabio.
It's all about expectations, isn't it, at the very, very highest level. And now that Pep's in charge of Manchester City, the expectations for themselves will go up again. I think it was much talked about that when Pellegrini came in, there was talk of, you know, you need to win 5 trophies in 5 seasons. It wasn't too far off that, but ultimately Pep, I think, will be detailed with winning the Premier League once, twice, 3 times in 5 seasons, and probably the Champions League at least once, if he stayed for 5 seasons, of course.
Very much something to build on in terms of last season in the Champions League, when City made it all the way to the Final 4.
Perhaps this might be the club for Pep to stay at a little bit longer. You know, you've done Barcelona, you've done Bayern Munich, now at Manchester City. Where do you go after this? You know?
Bayern always felt like a project for him that had a shelf life. Perhaps he can see a little bit further ahead with Manchester City and the legacy that they're looking to build in the East End of Manchester, with the fantastic, as we were talking about in the first half, youth system that they now have in place to promote young local talent, as well as the cream of the the crop from all over the world. Juan Banat is on his way, as is Xavi Martinez.
I think you have to realise and recognise that in this day and age, the shelf life of a manager is very, very short. You know, probably 2 to 3 years maximum in the Premier League. You know, Mourinho doesn't often last longer than that, although he's incredibly successful. Guardiola himself does 3 years and then tends to leave. Ancelotti has been unbelievably successful throughout his career. He doesn't often last more than 2 years, you know, in a job. So, you know, managers come and go, and you have to accept that, and that's probably in this day and age why CEOs, managing directors, technical directors are tending to buy the players more so.
The Austrian Sinan Atiki is on for Manchester City. Returned from a cruciate ligament injury, really bad injury in December, so he will be hoping that the season ahead at the 21 years of age has a little bit more to offer from his point of view. One of those who's just come on for Bayern, incidentally, is Felix Goetze, the younger brother of Germany's World Cup winning goal scorer Mario Goetze.
Well, great name, fantastic pedigree, a lot to live up to, but in terms of cruciate ligament injuries these days, it's not commonplace, but players come back from it unbelievably quickly. I remember when it sort of first became apparent when Paul Gascoigne did his career-threatening injury. These days it's 6 months and you're back to full fitness.
Opportunity for City. Atiki's first involvement is to take the free kick. There's Clichy looking for Batiki. Rafinha beating him to it. Goetze, who by all accounts was one of the standout players for Bayern at the heart of the defence. He started the game on Saturday against lower league Liebstaaten. A really positive impact. Just 18 years of age, like Mario Goetze, joined from Dortmund. Here's Batiki again. Joined City back in April 2012, Sinan Batiki's been very regular presence in their under-21s reserve side, whatever you want to call it. He's played a bit in the UEFA Youth League as well. Here's Clichy. Angelino showing himself to be quite the versatile player. Started at left back, played on the left-hand side of midfield, has taken up a more central role for the time being. Feo. Here's Yaya Toure. Tiki once more. And the trickery has drawn an experienced player in the shape of Rafinha into conceding a needless free kick, which City are keen to get on with.
But that's better. You know, pick the ball up, make something happen, run at somebody. Doesn't matter about reputation or who they are.
Selena was the player in an offside position. Selena, a Norwegian under-21 international, but has since switched allegiance to Kosovo. Here he is again, beaten to it by Feldhahn.
Kosovo have quite a strong side. There's quite a few players, isn't there? Being that they're a new side, quite a few players have gone back to their
ancestral roots,
their home country, if you like, and they could surprise one or two.
Rabio's played 70 minutes now, though, at the heart of that Manchester City defence, and he will certainly be one of those who will come away with very happy memories of an appearance at the Allianz Arena. Yes, he made his senior debut against Chelsea in that FA Cup drubbing last season. He might just feel as though this is the night where he was able to get himself on track in terms of first-team recognition. Done too much wrong at the heart of that City defence. even with Ribery running at him at times in the first half. Boni, who had an early sight of goal of his introduction at midway. Here's Batiki again. He's got one or two tricks up his sleeve, and Bayern weren't necessarily prepared for him. Or Angelino, that's a great delivery, and Boni did just about everything in his power to steer it goalwards.
Very difficult chance for Wilfried Boni. He's past the near post, so although he throws himself at the ball, diving header, he just has to glance that off his head and hope it goes in the far corner. Not an awful lot more he could do with that.
A reminder that ahead of the start of the new domestic season in England, we will have the Community Shield from Wembley for you as the champions Leicester face the FA Cup winners Manchester United. 7th of August, 3:15, Ultra HD and BT Sport 2. And then we get up and running for the Premier League season in our new time slot from 5 o'clock in the evening, Saturday the 13th. It is Pep Guardiola's Manchester City again for you against Sunderland, who may well be under new managership, with Sam Allardyce heading for England. That is here on BT Sport 1 and in ultra high definition.
Well, and even that personal promo, Wayne Rooney, will he play for Manchester United this season? You know, wants to maybe play in that number 10 role. But Mkhitaryan coming in, looks like that could be his position. And of course, Riyad Mahrez. An awful lot of transfer rumours about will he now stay at Leicester.
Amid all the inexperience on the field, Philipp Lahm and Yaya Toure coming together, and Fernandinho booked in a pre-season friendly.
Yeah, you have to go some to get booked in a pre-season friendly.
And it is his last act. The Spaniard Alex Garcia is on in his place. Another who had that chastening senior debut against Chelsea in the Cup. Delph, good interchange with Boni. Borsch for Goetze Jr.
These pre-season games are all about fitness, sharpness, getting that match fitness in. It's very, very
Work they did when he arrived.
Of course, these players
Here in Munich 3 years ago, they only had Dortmund as realistic rivals. The Premier League, they only had Dortmund in realistic rivals. The Premier League vitalised under new stewardship. Arsenal will go again, I'm sure, as Leicester demonstrated last season. You can't discount one or two on the periphery who might take inspiration from the remarkable story of last season.
We've got Tottenham, Liverpool in there as well. I'm sure, you know, Everton with Ronald Koeman will want to have a go. You know, it's very, very entertaining, very, very difficult league.
Rafael, another of these City youngsters who has been involved since the start. The layoff to Yaya Toure. Rafael again.
And when you think when Pep Guardiola went to Bayern Munich, world-class players, exceptional players, he just had to tweak the way that they played to his style. Manchester City is a huge overhaul for him. How quickly can he get those messages across, and how quickly can he transfer his way of playing, his ideas onto the players, and then get them to deliver on the pitch.
Garcia for Yaya Toure. Delph, body, first touch lets him down when the goal was at his mercy.
Just a little bit of pre-season rustiness. Good move from Manchester City. that's what we talk about. You know, of course, players have been lacking that little bit of sharpness, especially in these first few games.
Here with the vision, not quite the execution. Selina was the target. Lahm. Enko. Borsch. Spreading the play. By Darabioyo.
Not only does Philip Lahm... Sorry, I'll let you carry on it.
And then God is wrong-footed. And finally, Bayern have found a way through. And the first goal of the Pep Guardiola era with Manchester City is a goal against overwhelmingly the dominant force of the first half, Bayern Munich. And with the help of a massive deflection, they have finally found a way through. And it is Ozturk who has got the goal.
Cruel deflection for Angus Gunn. Nothing he can do about that. He's going the opposite way quite easily. Going to pick that ball up, make a comfortable save, the deflection.
They have finally found a way through, and it is Ozturk who has got the goal.
Cruel deflection for Angus Gunn. Nothing he can do about that. He's going the opposite way quite easily. Going to pick that ball up, make a comfortable save, the deflection.
To acknowledge the return of his former boss to the Allianz Arena.
But that goes to show that, okay, maybe the fans didn't quite love Pep Guardiola. You know, we talked about that they respected him. Clearly the players do like him. Whether they love him, not quite so sure. But they respect him and really like him. If not, players wouldn't do that.
Well, the players, I suppose, unlike the supporters in the hierarchy, will appreciate even better what the fine margins are. The little bit of luck that you need to go all the way in the Champions League. So the fact that Guardiola was able to guide them to 7 trophies during his 3 years in charge will be something that I'm sure that they recognise as a notable achievement. Batiki has shown 1 or 2 flashes since his introduction. The goal back to draw things level for Manchester City would now be a real bonus. All about working off the summer cobwebs, tuning up for the new season, and certainly those senior players who were on international duty, both in France and the Centenary Copa America, they're already on their way to Beijing ahead of a meeting with Manchester United on Monday, and what a pre-season contest that's going to be. Mourinho versus Guardiola, 2 new managers in place at Manchester's Big 2. And we get an early flavour of what to expect in China on Monday. So this is very much a youthful second-string City lineup tonight. Alex Garcia, one of those to get his chance. Fabian Delph in this second half as well. Tiki with a smart turn. It's being held up illegally, and they will come back for the free kick. It's good refereeing from Günther Perl.
You see there, that's what Pep Guardiola won't like about that goal. Giving the ball away unnecessarily creates the opportunity. Manchester City after that are very unfortunate. Angus Gunn, nothing he can do about that. You see that wicked, cruel deflection for Angus Gunn.
An inexperienced one, Darabioyo, just was frustrated by the referee being in his way rather than immediately looking to make amends.
Well, we've seen him score from here before.
The most experienced player on the pitch for Manchester City taking responsibility. Alex Garcia is there as well. He'll do well to talk Yaya Toure out of this. It is to be Yaya Toure, who is not too far away from getting City level.
Very, very close. There's an unbelievable run-up. Runs at the ball, almost at a right angle to the goal. Hits the back stanchion in the end. Incredible technique to get the ball up over the wall with such dip.
Fabian Benko for Bayern. Dorsch closed down by Delph. Guardiola style, Bayern winning it back quickly and immediately. This is Friedel, 18-year-old Australian, now playing on that left-hand side. They summon some intensity, City, to get the goal back. Bonny. A couple of half chances, they were nothing more than that. Garcia just ran away from him. Still being very strongly linked with a plundering of Bundesliga talent in terms of taking Leroy Sané for huge money from Bayern's rival Schalke. Bayern have at times been interested in Sané themselves, just wonder whether the price has gone a little bit beyond even their capabilities. Juventus, Leonardo Bonucci, another, still being heavily linked with City, who will need defensive reinforcements ahead of the new season.
Yeah, and this is what we have to wait and see. You know, we talk about, you know, who are the favourites at the moment to win the Premier League, who do you think is going to do well. So much business to be done between now and the end of August. That will change an awful lot. Who can get the players in that they want, yeah, and who can't.
Benko is one of those who played from the off for Bayern, so more than 80-minute workout for him tonight. Got another mouth-watering pre-season friendly on the way, and two teams will be a little further along in their preparations come Sunday the 7th of August, 12:30. West Ham against Juventus, BT Sport 2 and ultra high definition where you can watch that. And then it's the big two from Germany with the curtain raiser to the Bundesliga season, the Super Cup, Bayern against Dortmund, Sunday the 14th, 7:15, right here on BT Sport 1.
Okay, it might not have been the greatest of pre-season friendlies this evening, but I think now, you know, you start to think the Euros are over. Now we're just looking forward to that Premier League season starting again. So many great games to look forward to.
Bonny getting the better of Goetze. Here comes a support from Salina. Opted to go it alone. And unlike at the other end, the deflection does not favour City. It was the goal scorer, Ozturk, who got himself back into a really good position.
Good work from Salina, though, down the right-hand side. Did well, cut inside. Didn't quite get enough power in the shot, and like you said, the deflection just took all the sting out of it.
Delph at full stretch can only turn it in the direction of Hagler, but City showing some determination to win the ball back quickly. Garcia this time.
When I look at Philipp Lahm, I almost look at him as a Pirlo type figure now. He could probably pay another 5 or 6 seasons at least. I know he's 32 now.
Going into his 13th season with Bayern.
Yeah, but the way that he plays, so efficient. You know, he hardly ever gives the ball away, puts himself in the right position at the right time. You know, he's gone from what was an attacking fullback to now a very, very good holding midfield player.
Looking to pick out Salina. Have to make do with a throw-in. We're inside the final 5 minutes of the 90. Clichy for Bonny. Belfa Darabioyo. Line of regrouped. Clichy looking for a gap somewhere. Salina looking to put pressure on Friedel. Marco Friedel occupying the position he does for Bayern's under-19s at left back. Maffeo turning away from him, gets the return from Salina. Really promising build-up from two of Manchester City's youngsters, and it nearly opened up Bayern.
Another decent move down the right-hand side. You know, from the outside looking in, we look at this game and think, well, you know, what have we learned? Maybe not too much, but I'm sure Pep Guardiola will have learnt an awful lot more about his players. We don't know what he asked them to do. We don't know how he asked them to perform. We don't know what sort of fitness levels he was expecting in this game.
Alex Garcia with the corner beyond Bonny.
I'm sure he won't tell us too much afterwards, you know, in his interview, but undoubtedly he will have learned an awful lot more than we will have done from this game.
I suppose that's Salina, who perhaps had an opportunity to pick out Bonny before deciding to go for goal himself, and Ozturk, who tracked him all the way, taking up an outstanding position.
Just had to go backwards a little bit too far, didn't he? Didn't quite enable him to get enough power in the shot.
The City media guys, the guys who do their Twitter, have been having some real fun at Bersant Salina's expense during the last few days. He's a really intense young player, and whenever they've managed to capture him in pose on the training field, he's been looking down the barrel of the gun. Though never change has been the message. They want that kind of intensity from their young players.
There's nothing wrong with being an ugly worker. Can't all be like Ronaldo, you know, preening halfway through a game just to make sure the hair's in the right place and the eyebrows are still trimmed.
You will know, Pep Guardiola, that a great deal more of the pre-season scrutiny will be on what happens against Manchester United in a few days' time, as Darabioyo, full stretch, just about manages to get it to a position where Angus Gunn can clear. Nothing that Gunn could have done about the shot that beat him.
I am a little bit surprised with Manchester City's pre-season schedule. Bayern Munich first game, Manchester United second game. That puts an awful lot of pressure.
Dortmund, then Arsenal.
Yeah, that, you know, used to play Mansfield, Scunthorpe, Rotherham, whoever it may be. Just to, you know, Shrewsbury, I mean, when Joe Hart had come across, just to get a feel for playing football again. You know, not going against some of the best players in the world.
Dorsch with the attempted through ball for Green. Instead, it's something from much further away, which Gunn, he'll be breathing a huge sigh of relief. Hagler it was with the effort, and Gunn probably should have made it look a little bit easier than this.
Bounces a little bit awkwardly in front of him. You just see it here. Just pops up, almost misjudges it, but gets away with one. See there, look, moves and dips. The bounce just catches him blows his cheeks out and thinks, "Ooh, got away with that one."
They've played the 90 minutes.
And in ultra high definition. And then the very next day, the German Super Cup, Bayern Munich against Borussia Dortmund, always well worth a watch. That's Sunday the 14th of August.
I think it was much talked about that when Pellegrini came in, with the talk of, you need to win 5 trophies in 5 seasons. It wasn't too far off that, but ultimately Pep, I think, will be detailed with winning the Premier League once, twice, 3 times in 5 seasons, and probably the Champions League at least once, if he stayed for 5 seasons, of course.
Very much something to build on in terms of last season in the Champions League, when City made it all the way to the final 4.
But perhaps this might be the club for Pep to stay out a little bit longer. You've done well
to promote young local talent, as well as the cream of the crop from all over the world. Juan Banat is on his way, as is Xavi Martinez.
I think you have to realise and recognise that in this day and age, the shelf life of a manager is very, very short. Probably 2 to 3 years maximum in the Premier League. Mourinho doesn't often last longer than that, although he's incredibly successful. Guardiola himself does 3 years and then tends to leave. Ancelotti, in a job. So, managers come and go, and you have to accept that, and that's probably in this day and age why CEOs, managing directors, technical directors are tending to buy the players more so.
The Austrian Sinan Atiki is on for Manchester City. Returned from a cruciate ligament injury, really bad injury in December, so he will be hoping that the season ahead at the 21 years of age has a little bit more to offer from the younger brother of Germany's World Cup winning goal scorer Mario Götze.
Well, great name, fantastic pedigree, a lot to live up to, but in terms of cruciate ligament injuries these days, it's not commonplace, but players come back from it unbelievably quickly. I remember when it sort of first became apparent when Paul Gascoigne did his career-threatening injury. These days it's 6 months and you're back to full fitness.
Opportunity for City. Atiki's first involvement is to take the free kick. Here's Clichy.